Have you jumped on the quilt card bandwagon? Tonight might be the night you do. Let's get started. So this looks pretty intense, doesn't it? It's really not that bad. This is going to become a Christmas tree quilt card. Now, all of these pieces are what you will need to make the front of the card, and I'm going to have a PDF with instructions for you because this can get confusing. But for now, we're going to lay it out like this. And what we're going to do, I'm actually going to try to move this over. Can I touch everything and move it over? Pretty much. What we're going to do is I'm going to leave this like this, and as I build it, I want you to see where these items are coming from. So that's why I have it here, and we're going to build it over here. Okay. All right. So the first thing you need to do is get all your cuts done, and you'll do that by using the PDF piece. Okay. The first thing we'll do is take this little guy. I'd even suggest laying it out like this to start. Take this little guy. He's a 1 by 1 inch square. We're going to cut him from one side to the other on the angle, just like this. Okay. And then we're going to turn him into a point like this. So he is going to live over in this area. He's going to be the top of our Christmas tree. Okay. Now from that same row, I'm going to need you to take another one, and we're going to cut it on the angle exactly the same way, just like this, all the way across, and they are going to go on either side. Now, you may have seen somebody do a quilted Christmas card easier than this, and there might be a way, but my brain just went like this. This is how I did it. All right, so there's that one. Now, these two guys, no cuts needed. We're going to put them right over here on either side, just like that. So that's row 1. Let's do row 2. The first thing you'll do for row 2 is you're just going to lay this guy right here in the center. He'll just go just like that, but this little guy is going to get cut on the diagonal right across, again 1 by 1 squares, and then we're going to place this one, you guessed it, on either side of our little square there, just like that. Now this one we have to get a little fancy on. Let me show you what we have to do. I'm going to use my cutting mat for this. Okay, on this guy you're going to need to mark him in 2 places. Along the top, I want you to mark him at 1.5 inches, just like this, and then I want you to flip him and do the same thing again. Just make that flip motion and mark him at 1.5 inches. Okay, now what we'll do is we're going to make a diagonal cut across from mark to mark. This is not hard to do. If you want to do this with your trimmer, put it in the trimmer, but what I like to do is just make that cut, and I just kind of drive the point of my scissors from one mark to the other and get that little diagonal. Now watch what's going to happen with these guys. This one is going to nestle right inside of here. You see all this math I did for you guys? And this one is going to nestle right in there. All right, we got to work on this one. This guy, he gets put right in the middle. Super easy. This guy is cut on the diagonal. These are going to be a lot of fun for you guys to make. I cannot wait to see what all you do. Y'all always take my quilt card ideas and run with them. All right, this little guy goes on this side and this one on this side. Now we're going to do that same cut we did a while ago, but we're going to change the measure this time. Okay, this time we're going to mark it at 1.25 inches at the top. We're going to flip it and mark it 1.25 inches again at the top, just like that. And then we're going to diagonal cut across. I say this all the time. If quilting were this easy, everybody would do it, wouldn't they? All right, this guy drives right inside of here, and then this one goes right in here. We only got one more row to put this guy together. All right, the big guy right in the middle. See, you see in the pattern? Haha, get it, pattern. This guy cut on the diagonal. The hardest part of this card is getting your cuts and picking your paper. And then these guys are going to go right on either side. Now you'll see one pattern goes in one direction and one goes in the other, but that's no big deal. It's a quilt. This one needs to be cut just on the diagonal. He's going to close out the end. You might be thinking, Maymay, why do we need all these white pieces if we're going to glue this down to another card base? The reason is when we go to stamp this piece, we want it to be level. We don't want to have like a lift between here and the tree. So we're leveling this guy out so he will stamp well when we use our little stamp. All right, last one, watch this. Boom, that's all there is to it. Isn't that great? All right, let's put this on a card front. Now, to make this easy, here's what I've done. I've cut for myself a piece of cardstock the same color as my background pieces here. This white is the same white, okay? I've cut it 4 inches wide by 5 inches, 5 1/4 tall. So 4 wide, 5 1/4 tall. The reason for that's gonna be a little taller than we need, but I wanna have a little give down here, a little wiggle room, okay? Now, here's where we're gonna start this guy. I have practiced, and this is how it works best for me. I'm gonna take that top corner, okay? And I'm gonna glue it to this top corner. And I'm gonna take my time to line this one up. And what I did in my practice was I put it there, but then I stood this up and I pressed it down to one side and then I pressed it down to the other, because we want to establish a good corner, because we're gonna work off of that, okay? So our next piece will go right next to it. And what's cool about doing it like this is I can just follow the pattern and it's super easy, right? So pick up a little glue, put it here, and just following my pattern, I'll put this guy next to it. Now, I'm not too concerned about the top of this, okay, about up here. I'm gonna have to square this up, but try to be as straight as you can. Where I really wanna stay straight while I'm building is down this side as much as I can. But even if you can't, it's no big deal. You can always cut little bits off of either side to square it up. You guessed it, place it just like a puzzle piece. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna run through and lay all the pieces down, and we'll get right back together. I feel like I failed to show you the paper pack I'm using. It's this Grayscale Christmas from Katie Sue. Love this pack, and I think it is so cute for this. Okay, now it's time to talk about squaring it up. Let me show you what I'm gonna do. Remember how I told you along one side I knew I was gonna have to square up? I wanna show you, do you see how just little bits hang off the edge? But watch how much better this looks when we square it up to that page underneath. So you probably cannot see this on camera, but that 4-inch page underneath, I've got this tiny little bit hanging over, and I just want to trim it down even, and it makes a huge difference. It just makes everything look like I did it right, you know, even though I'm very off. At the top, it feels like I have a tiny little bit here, but apparently I don't. Now at the bottom, I have a pretty good bit, so I'm gonna come right here. The reason for that is, remember I told you to cut it a little bit longer, and that's so we could have a little bit of give here at the bottom, and we could cut that away. But look how cute it is now. It's perfect, right? Okay, let's talk about stamping it. Now the reason we made these stamps is so that whenever you finish quilting a card, you could quilt it, right, with the stamp set. But I want to show you something. If you're not careful, sometimes if you use a solid black ink, it takes away from your quilt design. So what I want to show you is a little tip. Before you stamp over this with black ink, take the layer that holds the stamp and lay it down and see how that's going to look. Do you see how that's a little bit busy to put on your little tree because it kind of knocks it back really a lot? What I'm going to do is stamp it in a gray ink instead of a black, okay? So I'm still going to stamp it. I just don't want it to take away from my design. So I've loaded my stamp onto my stamp wheel. And by the way, this stamp wheel is perfect for this. And the reason is because I can float this in the middle, right? Because if you're going to use your MISTI, you just have to move it away from the corner. But right here, I can float this because it sticks wherever I put it. And then I can just make sure that I have my stamp lined up where it needs to be. And it looks like I do. So let's ink this guy up and stamp it. Now the gray I think I'm going to use is this guy. It is the Morning Mist from VersaFine Clair. I think it will be fine. If not, you could use even a lighter gray if you weren't sure about it. But this one's it's a really pale gray, and I think it'll work out perfect. So let's ink this guy up. And obviously I'm inking the whole stamp, even though all of it's not going to be needed. Some of it's going to hang over the edge. But I'd rather have it all inked than miss a spot. So place that down, and I'm going to use my impressible to rub that in. I'm going to lift this up and see if I got everything. Sometimes, oh, that looks good. See, that gray was right. Black would have taken it away, I think. Sometimes you can miss some here in the middle because when you're placing these on, it can get a little air bubble, or in some places it can. So you might have to stamp it twice or even work within a little air bubble on your stamp, but you can get that, no big deal. I think that's beautiful. Now it's time to run it through an embossing folder. And I'm going to use a super simple pattern. I feel like it's busy enough, but I do want to emboss it because I like when we're doing the quilt cards to give it a little bit of body. So I'm going to use this simple little folder, and I'm going to do that off camera. I'll be right back. And here it is embossed. I'll take this off and show you what that looks like. See, I don't think it needed more than a simple little pattern. And I also liked the kind of angular pattern with the tree. I love how that turned out. Let's put this on a card. So this piece is 4 by 5. Well, this one I cut 4 1/8 by 5 1/8 because I just want a 16th of an inch of that red to kind of show around it as my border. Now you can edit that any way you want, but that's how I want that to look. So I'm going to glue this directly down, and then I'm going to put it onto a card base. Okay, so let me show you something else. This is an A2 base in my hand. So this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I want you to see what happens. Because of the way I did my panel, it leaves me this small piece at the bottom, which is fine. You could always put a sentiment here or add something there to make it cute. But here's what I did. I edited my card base size. The reason is it's not going to hurt anything. It's still going to fit into a regular envelope. So what I did was I have a piece here that is 4 1/4, which is my regular size, by 5 1/4. So I got rid of that extra that I didn't need, and I think it makes a really cute little note card. I don't think anybody will even notice that it's not the same size as this traditional A2. So edit the cards to fit you, right? Especially if you're going to make this as like a note card set. I could see you quilting up with scraps from your scrap pile. So many of these little card sets to give away at Christmas. And if you watched our video last Saturday where you saw the ways to package them up and give them away, or at least some ways, there's a lot more. We'll probably bring you more too. Wouldn't this be cute done as a little gift card set? Several of them. I love how this turned out. I hope that you do too. I cannot wait to see what you guys do. Also, even though these sets are for stitching, I think these will be the cutest backgrounds for some cards. Shannon was telling me she can't wait to stamp this in like color. You only have to color like little bits of this to do the peppermint look, and the same here to do the green and this to color it. So watch for that video. I know she wants to do it. She's been chomping at the bit. There you go, guys. A quilted Christmas tree. I think it is perfect for this time of year, and I cannot wait to see what you do. So that means you got to do 2 things. 1, you have to make a project like this, and then 2, you need to share it with me. You can share it on our customer gallery at MaymayMadeIt.com, or you can share it on our Facebook group at MaymayMadeIt, and so did I. Don't forget to give us a subscribe. This is the time of year when we're giving you all the ideas for Christmas. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. It sure does help me out. Till next time, guys. Bye now.